What's up, everybody? I'm in Kansas. I'm in Stillwell, Kansas. I'm looking at a property right behind me. I've got my architect here, Adam Pfeifer.
Hey guys.
He's the one who designed my house. If you haven't checked out that video, check it out. And he's gonna help us with the flip out here. I'm buying it from a guy that I've actually gotten to know. He called me up. He said, I was gonna make this my primary house. I've changed my idea. And with that, he's actually a builder. And so he actually changed a bunch of stuff that is now going to cause me some issues versus just a fix and flip. So now this is coming up to a new addition, construction type of problem. Let's walk through the concerns, and Adam's gonna kind of go back and forth with me with our ideas are. So Adam, we already walked the house. Tell us about what we have here.
So what we have is a house probably built in about the 60s, fairly typical construction for this part of the country. We've got stick frame construction. We've got masonite paneling on the outside of the house.
What's masonite paneling, dude?
Masonite paneling is an exterior sheathing that was used back in the 60s and the 70s, and even a little bit before that. It's not used much today. It's a very thin board. It was kind of a precursor to plywood. It's almost made up of a dark sawdust.
It's like T111?
T111 was a profile that was used years ago, and that looked like a reverse board and bat siding. And they did have that made of masonite back in the day.
So what do we have here?
So what we've got here is the foundations for a garage from this previous builder that had started to flip this house for himself. Unfortunately, he abandoned the project before he got any further than this piece of concrete that's in the ground. And through our research, we found out that this thing is actually over the setback line by 2 feet into the right-of-way or into the setback line. So all of a sudden now we run into an issue of we would have to go through purchasing additional space from the neighbor's lot to all of a sudden allow this to stay as it is, or we have to go through some sort of a BZA or a Board of Zoning Appeals to get a special exception from the city to allow us to keep building on this, which those are becoming harder and harder to get approved anymore.
Well, let's talk about that too. If you look at that and say, okay, we're gonna put our garage right here, you got a couple different issues. One, you're coming down a driveway right here, which is a straight line. You see all of our cars are parked in there. So you're gonna have to come down here and you're gonna have to whip it into here.
Exactly.
At almost a, what is that, a 90-degree turn?
Oh, total 90-degree turn. Normally when we do these kinds of situations, we're gonna see at a minimum 24 feet, as much as 35 feet between these areas. Well, we have that to the garage, to the existing garage itself. We don't have that to the existing landscaping, the existing sidewalk here.
Right.
So all of a sudden now we're working in something that's about 20 or 22 feet. It's gonna be real tight to get anything in here bigger than about, oh, I don't know, a Honda Civic.
Right. So if you're a Honda Civic and you want this house, we'll build this way. If not, right. So we've got what we call costs. And when we look at these costs, we're like, well, if I just start building on the top of this, I solve my problem. But then I have another problem. I've got this whole problem, right? Because they tore all this up. I've got this problem that I got to fix now. And this, to fix this concrete right here, might be $10,000, right?
Easily.
So if I look at this and I'm like, okay, if we attach a wall to here and we get rid of all this and we build a 2-car garage, not only do we solve that problem, because now people don't have to make a turn, they just drive straight into their freaking garage, which we can then attach to the house. But in addition to that, we pick up what, Adam?
With that, because of where this existing landscape is, we're gonna pick up some additional square footage inside the lower level of the house.
So basically, your highest amount of money that you're gonna make on a house is living square footage. Absolutely. The garage is just an upsell. Like, I was not gonna do the garage. My plan was build a carport. Like, I'm not doing that, and I know it's gonna cost me too much money just to build a garage, so I'm just gonna go, I'm okay with the carport. I looked at the neighborhood around here, and I'm like, you know what? A garage isn't necessary, but putting a carport is. But then I realized that, oh, if we attach a garage here, I can pick up 400 more square foot, and I get the garage, and I solve the problem with all this concrete that I'm gonna have to deal with anyways. Right. So it's like a 1-2 punch where you're actually making an investment in something you had to do anyways. So now we really don't have to worry about the lumber, the roofing.
Exactly. A couple of windows.
A couple windows. We don't even need any windows in a garage, right?
Right.
So we really don't need to worry about even putting windows.
That just depends on the matter. And one of the things that we had talked about as well was with this addition here for the garage, do you go 2 stories or do you leave it 1 story?
Right.
There's an option there that we can, that we're gonna work through to decide which way we wanna go. By building above that garage, we get some really inexpensive square footage because we're already gonna put in the foundations, we're already gonna put in the first 4 walls, we're already gonna put in a roof. All we're doing is we're buying additional walls for that 2nd floor.
And the only decision to make there is based on if we add, because now we're picking up 400 square foot.
We're gonna add another 800 square foot on the main floor all of a sudden.
Right, and so now if we add an additional, a 2-car garage is how many square feet?
Usually 400 to 500 square feet.
Yeah, exactly that range. So if we say it's 450, and then we're gonna add another, we're adding another 800,
right.
We're almost gonna have too big of a house
for this neighborhood.
For the neighborhood. So that's why I would lean to not doing that, even though like if it was my own personal home, I'd want to do that. But it's not my own personal home. And when we flip real estate, we don't flip it like it's our own personal home. We're trying to say, okay, this house is now going to be 21 to 22 to 2,300 square foot. And now I told Adam before here, I'm like, I want to get at least a 4.3.
Yeah.
And if anything, we're going to do a 5.3 if we can't do a 4.3, which means 3 is the maximum number of bathrooms. We're going to put one in our master. We'll probably do a Jack and Jill shared or something like that. And let's go into the house and figure out how we're going to lay this thing out. So now we're going to look to fill in this concrete, work with the city. And you can't see right now, but there's a cool little creek right here. This is actually a really popular area. I've heard this is called the Golden Triangle. Do you know, are you familiar with the term Golden Triangle?
I haven't heard that down here.
So I asked Adam, the first question I asked him, I'm like, hey, are we gonna have to, because one of the first problems that I had when I was flipping houses is when we were converting basements to square footage, they have to be 7 foot tall. That's code. And so I'm looking at this, I'm like, I don't think this is 7 foot tall. And then Adam says.
So what the situation is here, so this kind of habitable space, as we call it, bedrooms, living rooms, things like that, we have to have a 7'6" as our minimum head height. That's what the building code says. But when all of a sudden, when we have situations like this, the beam, we can take those ceilings, we're gonna have a soft area that drops down. It's gonna hide this beam, it's also gonna hide any ductwork that goes to either side of this. That can come down to 7 feet, 6.5 feet, or 6'8", whatever it needs to be. And that's an allowable exception in the code as long as it's no wider than 24 inches.
So as long as this stays within this 24-inch box,
Yep.
which we can hide our ductwork in.
Exactly.
So we can hide this beam into drywall, which we can also hide our ductwork in. And then we have another beam right there that we can do the same thing. Then we're able to convert this to living square footage without having to dig down or raise up.
Exactly.
Either one is super complicated and super expensive.
Very, very. And once we get outside this thing, we pop back up with our sheetrock to the bottom of these floor joists. And we're back to, you know, right about 8 foot down here as well. It's standard, just like anything, like most things here built in Kansas City.
So now a couple things we talked about prior to getting here is we're gonna put the water heaters on the outside. That's something I like to do just because I think with the tankless water heaters is the way to go these days. People like it, it's an upsell. And it's not an upsell, but it's an upgrade.
There you go.
And these old water heaters just don't give it the same appeal. And if we have to create space for that on the inside, then we lose space for them using their property. Now, we obviously could put either one of these things outside, but then we have to build a structure for them. If you just build a hot water tank on the outside, then the roof line just needs to cover it, which it already does, and there's no problem there.
Right.
So that's what I like about this. We've already decided that we're gonna make this bedrooms and a bathroom or two down here, okay? So that's what's gonna be up here. So probably one bathroom.
We'll start to look at bedrooms on this wing because also we can get easy access to the outside wall, start to cut egress windows in. That's one of the things we'll have to have out here is with these being bedrooms, we have to have our egress windows based on building code. We've got two options here, and this is one of those things that we have to start to weigh.
Oh yeah, that is a huge cost. Let's talk about that.
Exactly, it's one thing we have to start to weigh pros and cons on about with putting in those egress windows. Is it easier to put them in this outside wall here and potentially lose living space that has a view of the creek, or is it more cost effective, even though it's going to be more cost initially, to cut them in this concrete wall and actually excavate that? Right. So that's one of those things that becomes that trade-off, or maybe we do one back here that we cut a hole in the concrete, and we do another one up here that all of a sudden cuts into this. We can all of a sudden manage those costs. We still leave some exterior wall for a downstairs living room that can have a good view of that creek.
Right. So we'll have to figure that out. My thing would be to put the bathrooms that away or that away, so that
probably back in that corner because they don't need as much natural light or any natural light that way. And on top of that, the previous contractor, you can see he's already cut a bunch of his concrete slab out to do additional underground plumbing when he was working on this project.
Right.
And so what we're going to do in an effort to try and control our costs out here is we're going to try and work within these existing concrete cuts as much as we can.
Right.
One other thing you can see beyond, we've got the garage doors. That's the area where we're going to open that wall up. We're going to add that 12 or 14 feet, whatever it is, until we get to our new garage. So all of a sudden this whole thing's going to get a little bit longer. We'll extend the steel beam. We'll end up with another steel post down there as well once we tear that wall out.
All right, so let's come out here real quick. One of the things we're definitely going to try to do is, if we can, save this freaking...
Yeah, in a situation like this, you know, the structure, when we looked at it from underneath, looks to be in really good shape. So we'll try and keep the structure. Maybe we tear off the decking, put new decking on here. That way it gives a nice, it's an inexpensive way to...
Or paint.
Or paint.
Yeah, he's architect flipper. You know what I mean? Obviously new is better,
yeah.
But this is solid, okay? You don't think so? It's as solid as I've seen.
With some of the stuff you've bought, yeah, I can agree with that.
No, I mean, it's solid, dude. You know, there might be a couple rotten beams in here or a couple rotten pieces of wood, but the only thing I would look to do is possibly eliminate that and make it all flush at the same level. Just because I think this is kind of a trip hazard.
It is.
We'll
horrible.
obviously want to put a rail in here.
Yep.
So one of the cool things about this particular house is you've got a creek right down there. So you want to, a couple of the cool things I'm thinking about is, A, we're going to want to keep a big exposed area right here.
Yep.
Same thing on the downstairs. We're going to want to have exposed areas to look at that nice view. That's what somebody's going to be buying this house for, is for this view. It sits on 1.6 acres. As we come through this house, we're just trying to figure out, like, how do we lay this out the best way? And one of the things that I thought about was making that the master over there. That's in the corner of the house, and it looks like it should be the master over there. This is going to be obviously the living room. We'd keep that the same.
Another bonus to all of a sudden making this the master is that with this piece of this wing of the house pushing out beyond where that living space is, now you have the opportunity for that master to have an access to that deck as well.
Right, which is exactly why I want to do it.
Which is a big selling feature.
Right, so master's going to go over here. We'll put a big bathroom, big closet on it, and then maybe we can get another small bedroom / office here, and we'd obviously need to put a bathroom on this main floor somewhere in here. Somewhere on this side. Could be an oversized powder room, a full bath. It definitely needs to be.
3/4 or something.
3/4 for sure, yeah. So 3/4 is what it needs to be. Shower.
Yep.
And large size shower.
Right.
And then full bathroom over there, double closets, all that thing. And then basic room, maybe a closet as well that has another one over here, and then bathroom. I think we can get that all in this space. Don't you agree?
Absolutely.
All right, cool. So yeah, we were talking about vaulting, the camera shut down. Vaulting is like these ceilings right here. And so it gives you a very open feeling, but you can see the roof line right here. I was talking about going that way, but it's going to be more engineering costs. And again, this is not my primary home. It's something I'd like to do, but I don't think it's worthwhile. I think this whole area right here should be the kitchen, and this should be the dining room.
Yeah.
Kitchen, dining room. And we just blow this wall out and make them one.
Exactly.
All right, and then we obviously would want to eliminate this wall altogether, or make it one wall.
By all of a sudden looking at eliminating this and eliminating that and not vaulting the ceilings gives us easy to be able to put a beam in here, a beam back there to support everything, and it's pretty cut and dry then.
All right, yeah, so I would like to eliminate that. We obviously want an open floor plan, and we want the kitchen to flow into the living space, which is going to be right in the middle here. Okay, so that is the upstairs. I think that's the layout we should go. I think we should make a, obviously, I think the kitchen sink should go against that wall there. And I think that area there should just be open, and we should maximize our cabinets. We'll obviously figure that out. We want to really have this be open, right? That be open, and the master be open. We're getting all of our stuff, and then use all of our walls to maximize. Like, we're going to have a wall here. We're keeping this wall, okay?
Some portion of it, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe it's to here.
Right.
Or maybe it's to here. But we're going to keep a portion of it so that we can get as much counter space as we can possibly have in here. And then a decent sized island for this situation. So any other suggestions, Adam, in here?
I think that kind of gives us a basic rundown of where we're headed.
Okay. So one thing that I learned on building my first house is that one cool critical movement to doing flips and stuff with architects and all that stuff is have some of the trades guys get involved too.
Yep, always.
Yeah, and that's just something that, like, I know he did that with my house, but like something I was like, oh man, the HVAC guy should talk to them, the electrician, like those two components right there, because especially when you're running new ducts or new plumbing, it's one of the things that, like, as an architect, he'll probably admit that you're not thinking like an HVAC guy.
Right.
As an HVAC guy, you're not thinking like an architect, and so if they're talking together, they're thinking the same way.
Yes.
As an architect, he's not thinking like a flipper.
Right.
He's thinking like an architect. I'm going to put this is my freaking license. I'm going to put my stamp on this thing. And we might have a 6,000 square foot house here, right?
We can do it.
I think what we should do is exactly what you said. Let's make a bathroom here, a big bathroom just for the whole thing.
Yep.
And let's make a huge laundry room here.
There you go.
End of story.
Okay.
And then, like you said, bedroom here.
Right. And then second bedroom in front of that.
Well, oh yeah, second bed. So 2 bedrooms right here,
Right.
coming off that, right? And then this should be kind of a little bit of a, what, a play area almost?
That would be just our big family lounge.
Or this, yeah, or like, because there's going to be a hallway at some point. Where's the hallway going?
I think we keep the hallway on that existing brick wall or existing concrete wall.
Okay.
There's no reason for us to kill any of the windows with a hallway.
So I changed my whole plan. So let's just make a badass laundry room there. If we're going to be adding all these bathrooms, I wonder if we could do a laundry bathroom combo. I don't know. I'm a little confused in the bathroom. I don't want to add 4 freaking bathrooms, but I feel like I almost need to if we're going to add.
At 5 bedrooms, it's hard to do it without 4 baths, or at least 3.5, or 3 3/4, something like that.
Right. So that's something we'll have to go and look at the comps again and see, hey, listen, if we could just put a bathroom right here and that feeds these bedrooms, because really the only people that matter are the adults.
Right.
And they're probably going to put their kids down here, and kids are okay sharing a bathroom until they get older. And mom, dad should be making more money by then anyway. So Adam, real quick. So what do you think I'm looking at cost for permits?
Cost for permits on something like this, by the time we get measured, we get design drawings done, we get engineering done that we'll be somewhere in that probably $3,000 to $5,000. And that's a very kind of bare bones set that fits what you're going for.
So that's with permits and plans?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And so when you do that, will you actually be able to walk that down to the city for us? And two, will you include that in your price so I don't have to deal with that? Yeah, we can give you some sort of an authorization.
Yep. We do that pretty frequently.
The reason I would want to pay him to do that and pay him more money is because him talking to the city is a lot better than me talking to the city. I'm going to say something stupid. He's going to tell him exactly.
Right. And that's one of the best things for a situation like that, where if the city comes back with some kind of comments on this and says, hey, we want you to change this, or this, because you didn't, you may have missed this thing or whatever. If you go here, get that feedback from them, something may get lost in translation. All of a sudden we go through 2 or 3 rounds of those things back and forth with the city. Whereas if I can work with them directly, we usually get that taken care of a whole lot faster.
Yeah, and the other thing is, do you care about how much this property sells for?
That's yours.
Right, you don't give a crap.
Right.
What means that he's not emotionally invested, he's got a job to do, and he's just gonna go get it done.
Yeah.
This is solid wood. I don't see any rot. I'm gonna stand by what I said before. I don't see no rot on this wood right here. This is solid. We're looking at a $10,000 deck. We start pulling this stuff off right now. So
right now, yeah.
Really, really, really key. And I picked up some scaffold in here, which is a nice deal. So I'm excited about this project. How much do you guys think I paid for this? How much would you pay for this? Are you subscribed to the channel? You should be. If you're trying to get started investing in real estate, I can tell you right now that if I was to do this when I first started, it'd be totally intimidating. And I'm still intimidated. That's why I brought my architect, because I'm not a plan guy. You want to make sure whenever you're doing a resale project like this to this high level, you want to make sure you got a licensed architect,
right,
a licensed engineer, and that you get this job permitted by the city and that they've stamped off on everything. And otherwise, you're gonna have tons of liability.
Right.
So most of our money is gonna be spent right here.
Yes, absolutely.
Right, and then we already have the stuff dug out. We're gonna have to get that. So you'll put a pad site. How deep does the slab have to be on the garage?
So in a situation like that, we'll have stem walls around the garage. It'll be 3 feet into the ground, and then the slab itself will be 5 inches thick.
5 inches thick, that's by code?
Yes.
Okay, and then how far down are the footers? You said 3 feet?
Frost depth for this part of the country is 3 feet. So we'll get down 3 feet at a minimum.
Frost depth, what does that mean?
So what that is in the varying parts of the country, we'll see where the ground starts to freeze. And it's the water that's in the ground starts to freeze. Around here, groundwater will freeze up to 36 inches deep. And so we'll all of a sudden hit 36 inches, gets us outside of that frost zone, and it's not an issue.
What would be the issue if we didn't?
If you don't, what that does, we know when water freezes and thaws, it starts to expand and contract. Think about if you take a bottle of water and throw it in your freezer,
totally.
All of a sudden that water bottle does this.
Right.
All of a sudden, if you have concrete on top of frozen water, that concrete can start to move up. All of a sudden you get what's called frost heave. And all of a sudden that garage can start lifting out of the ground.
Ah, I didn't know that. Good information there. I did not know that. That's what I'm asking. So basically the reason for doing it is you want to get to the part where it's not freezing so it doesn't lift you up.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Makes sense now. Just to give you a quick little tour of the neighborhood. This house right down there just sold for close to $500,000. When you're buying real estate, you want to be the worst house on the block. We are the worst house on the block, but we are the prettiest landscaped house on the block. Look at all those pretty flowers. Nobody else has got those. They actually have a dirt driveway here. But this is a nice neighborhood, quiet street. There hasn't been a car drive by down here. It's a one way in, one way out. And I think we're gonna set a high price point. Hopefully the market doesn't crash by the time we do that. And how long do you think it'll take you to turn these plans around for me?
We'll get the first version of plans to you in 2, maybe 3 weeks, worst case scenario.
And that's gonna have a site plan with it?
Yep, we'll have a site plan, we'll have some floor plans and for us to take a look at, make sure we're on the right
Ready
track.
to turn into the city?
Not quite. But
Okay.
we'll get your guys' approval on it, then we'll have some engineering done, then we'll be ready to turn into the city.
What is that whole gonna take?
Whole thing, we're probably 6 weeks.
Okay, let's get going.
Yeah,
Let's roll with
absolutely.
it. All right, brother man. All right.
Sounds good.
Peace.